It's been a long season here on the CFL betting blueprint, but the Grey Cup is finally here. A champion will be crowned this weekend. The Alouettes and the Roughriders going head to head. Andrew and Bobby, of course, here with you to break things down, and two special guests joining us this week as it is the Grey Cup. Got to have a couple guys joining us. Look forward to hearing their opinions. We've got Ian and Ben hopping on to chat with us and get their thoughts on the game. But Bobby, look, we've got Saskatchewan, we've got Montreal, and hopefully a good Grey Cup ahead here. Some line movement so far this week, but nice to have some fresh teams. I keep on saying it, but Saskatchewan out there in the West, they've been waiting for a couple years for this.
Yeah, and I was looking back. This is another Grey Cup, and we'll get into it throughout the show here. There's another Grey Cup where I think this line is crazy. It's mispriced by 4, maybe more, right? So, like last year, we had a 9.5 open, come back down to 8.5. Year before that, I think Montreal opened 9.5, closed 7. But this line is getting bigger. This line's going the other way. So, pretty weird. In any other professional sport, I would probably be concerned, but not really. If it's the CFL, nothing makes sense, and you just got to trust yourself, I guess, on it.
Yeah, well, before we bring in Ian, we're going to have Ian up first. Let's take a look at it. I mean, the early number here was 1.5 in favor of Saskatchewan. It goes without saying, of course, this is a neutral site, albeit some people do think we're going to get more fans for Saskatchewan in this one, of course. But then it went to 3, then 3.5, and now 4 at most spots, and some 4.5s here. As far as the total, haven't seen much movement. 49.5 was the consensus number. The only movement I've really seen is a half point down, Bobby. 49 at some shops here. So total's not really doing too much here. And forecast-wise, weather should be okay. So weather shouldn't be playing too much of a factor in this game from what we've seen. Injury reports, obviously, Davis Alexander has been a huge headline. He's a guy entering this one without a loss as a starter in the CFL. Will that end in the Grey Cup, or will he just continue to roll? We'll find out. But his health has been a little bit of an issue. And, maybe that's part of the movement, or maybe that's not. But I guess you're always on top of things. Before we jump into anything, is there anything we should know from health issues with some of these teams? I know Saskatchewan battled health problems throughout the year, but based on what I've seen, they're looking pretty healthy going into this game. And Davis Alexander, of course, the main concern for the Alouettes.
Yeah, the Riders are getting healthy. Still, their O-line's been banged up all year. Same with the receiving core, but honestly, they've done pretty well, especially the receivers. It's kind of just plug and play on that team, right? So I would say both teams are pretty healthy. The O-line of the Alouettes was a little weaker last week with Lestage out, but it looks like he's back. Then it's just down to Alexander. And like you said on Gabe's pod the other day, how much are they really going to be talking about it? Well, I find it really odd that when Alexander was injured throughout the season, Jason Moss was the king of, he doesn't have to take reps. He could just pop in at any time. He was acting like he was going to play. Now all of a sudden they're saying, he's getting 3 or 4 treatments a day. I think they might be, I don't want to, no pun intended, ham it up a bit here, but I think there's something to that. I think, I don't think these coaches are as smart as they think they are. And I don't think that the public is as stupid as they think they are either. So the fact that they're being very transparent, maybe they're playing it up a bit. I don't know. The only concern in this game is if Alexander makes it through the whole game, right? He should be able to manage pretty well to start off. He played most of the fourth quarter in Hamilton with this injury, right? So is it a drop off to MBT? Of course, but yeah, that's the main concern. Everybody's going to be looking at how Davis is walking through the airport, how he's walking at practice. This is good stuff. This is the stuff that we wish we would see throughout the season, right? Yeah, Chad Kelly, the MOP of the league, in question every week, and nobody cared. Nobody went to the practice. Nobody took a video of him. Nobody even got an interview. He did one interview on some random podcast down south. Nobody cared except for I think Shinetti got him for one interview during the season. But I like it. I like all this over the top coverage. This is the kind of stuff that if you're betting, this is the kind of stuff that you want to see. You want to see how these guys are moving, right? You don't want to see them walking like Ric Flair down through the Winnipeg airport, right? So he looked good. If he doesn't make it through the game, I guess if you're back in Montreal, you have to kind of accept that as the risk.
And obviously the line has reflected that. 4 is now the consensus. Some spots showing 4.5. Underdogs have done very well in the Grey Cup over the last handful of years. We've seen +9s cash as outright dogs, and we've seen +7s, +7.5. So dogs have done very, very well. I'll tell you what, full transparency, I like Saskatchewan with the opener, but then the more this number has moved, it's kind of scared me off a little bit. So there's different ways that I plan on attacking this game. But I am very interested to see what our good friend Ian Cameron has to say about this one. Ian's always jam-packed with information. And Ian, we'll ask you this here when we bring you on. Early thoughts on the opening line and your thoughts on the line movement in this one here, Ian. I mean, what do you think? Underdogs have done very well. Saskatchewan's been waiting for their moment to get to the Grey Cup. They're finally here. We know the CFL writers have picked the Roughriders, and it seems like all the bettors are picking one team, but a lot of people are some saying this number is too big at this point.
Well, good to be with you guys, by the way. Great season of your show. Let's give you your flowers for that. Great work with the betting blueprint here for Wager Talk. But, yeah, I think when it comes to the line movement that we've seen here with Saskatchewan, we're at open close to a pick 'em, and now we're seeing it at 4.5 as favorites here in this game. There's twofold. That's the Davis Alexander situation. Everyone's worried. Everyone's panicking a little bit about this hamstring situation with him, even though if you read any of the reports from the first Alouettes practice yesterday, he was moving around with no noticeable pain or limp or anything like that. Now, he didn't run very much, but he said to the media, I don't run much in practice anyway. Save it for game day. So I don't think it's going to be as bad that we're going to see as far as his health situation with that. What was the concern that I had with Montreal is not what everyone's fixated on Davis Alexander, forgetting about the fact that their left side of the offensive line was wiped out against Hamilton last week by injury. And that's what I think allowed the Ticats to probably have a better defensive effort last week in the loss, despite not winning that game. They made life very difficult. The pass rush got home. There were times when Davis was feeling the pressure. They got home with the pass rush. Hauser and others got there to the quarterback last week, and it was because the left side of the O-line for the Montreal Alouettes was compromised last week. Nick Callender, the left tackle. Pierre Lestage, the left guard. But it's looking like both of those guys have been practicing this week and should play. Lestage in particular, he was a late absence. We didn't know until, 30 to 60 minutes. I mean, I'm going to the game last week, and I hear Bubba O'Neill on the Ticat pregame saying, whoa, Pierre Lestage is out all of a sudden. I'm saying, whoa, and knowing how good of a player he is, too. They ranked him. They talked to one of the Alouette beat writers on the pregame show, too. They said he's probably like the second best offensive lineman this team has. So from that standpoint, it was clearly a loss. It was clearly someone they missed on that O-line. And now to have him available for this game, because you would think he's going to play practicing early in the week here in Winnipeg prior to this Grey Cup, that's a big boost for the offensive line. And when you're talking about a quarterback dealing with a hamstring issue, you want that protection in place and that offensive line to be as full strength as possible. And it's certainly looking like right now there's a better chance of that. So to me, guys, I find it hilarious, and we always do that. And as bettors and handicappers, we're conditioned to know that the offensive line, the defensive line, the linebacking core, and the secondary, it's every bit as important to the functionality of a football team as the quarterback, the running back, wide receiver, any of the skill position group. But you can't convince the media people of that. They fixate on the quarterback injury. They fixate on the running back injury. And they don't pay attention. A 3-0 lineman might miss the game. They don't pay attention to, both of our linebackers are iffy to play. They gloss over the fact that maybe the best corner on the team in the secondary may not play. And that's a misnomer. That's a bad job. You've got to focus on the guts of the team. And I always say the guts of the team in football, the O-line, the D-line, in the trenches. And I think secondaries are very important too. Because when you've got inexperienced players back there, you're going to struggle. And unfortunately, media types don't pay attention to those type of impact injuries as much as they should. We're hearing all about Alexander this week. Why didn't we hear anything about the left side of the offensive line, which is every bit as important to Montreal's key to success here on Sunday?
Yeah, and I've been saying about Saskatchewan how good their rushing defense is, #1 in the league this year. So if they're going to force Montreal to stand in the pocket and have to pass consistently, because if they shut down that run, that could be a problem with the offensive line. I think so. I hope that Saskatchewan kind of shuts down that rush early on for Montreal.
#1 run defense in the CFL based on yards per game, yards per rush, Saskatchewan. Yep. That being said, it's been a new element, guys, to this Montreal run game, and it's been Stevie Scott, who's really given this team a little bit of a jolt as far as the run game is concerned. And if that offensive line is in better shape for this Grey Cup compared to last week against Hamilton, and it's looking right now like it will, it'll give them a better chance to have some success running the football. And we've seen in these playoff games, the run game's been more of a component. You want to be more balanced at this time of year as the weather gets colder, as the games become more important. And yes, Montreal's run game's improved, and the O-line health should help it. But on the flip side, you are going up against a team that has been not just good, but really good all season, stopping the run. As we saw last week, they really didn't get much out of the run game with Butler for the BC Lions. So from that standpoint, most of the damage was Rourke with the arm. Rourke, quarterback runs when the pass rush got home. That's going to be an interesting dynamic. I think Montreal's found something in Stevie Scott. As someone that follows college football, I remember him at Indiana. He was a great running back there. He's found a spot in the CFL and has taken advantage of an opportunity. Because if you remember, they cut Walter Fletcher in training camp. We were all stunned by that, and we said, "What are they doing here?" But credit to Montreal, they did know what they were doing. Travis Tice has been great for them. Sean Thomas Erlington was good for them early in the season before he got injured. And they also had Stevie Scott in this backfield. And he stepped up with the opportunity, and he's been really solid. That'll be put to the test, though, because as you guys know, Riders run D, that ain't no joke.
Bobby, what do you think?
Well, I'd like to hear Ian's thoughts on this, because over the past few weeks, I've had a hard time finding any value in the side, right? I know last week you were more focused on the totals. That's more of your specialty anyway, as we've seen a few Ian Cameron specials hit this season. But how does this line go from the last 2 weeks? I had no value on the semifinal weekend and then division semifinal weekend. Last week I'm scraping to find anything out of the Lions, which I told Andrew right before game time, I don't even know if I like this anymore. How does it go from being pretty accurate? This is supposed to be, in any other sport, this is the sharpest line of the year, the championship game. And I haven't seen anybody that can kind of make sense of this. Sure, Alexander is there's a concern there, but Montreal was just a 3-point favorite in Hamilton. Would the Riders be touchdown favorites in Hamilton? I don't think so, right? No. If BC ran the ball one more time in that fourth quarter there, would they be 3.5 favorites, 4-point favorites here? So just wondering what you think of how did the line get here, and why does it always happen to be the craziest line in the Grey Cup?
Yeah, I think it is. I think it's all because of sheer panic, and not panic, but concern about the health of the quarterback. I think it's Saskatchewan. I think a big element too is proximity here. People assume that because this game's in Winnipeg, this is going to be a green wave in the crowd. It's going to be dominated by Riders fans. And I'll make note of this before people assume that. And look, there's going to be more Riders fans than Alouettes fans. Let's be real. No one's splitting the atom figuring that one out. We all know that's going to be the case. Yeah. But let's be honest let's be sensible and really accurately portray what's going on with the Saskatchewan fan base. This is also a fan base that struggled to sell out games late in the season. And even into the playoffs, there was concern that the West Final took so long to sell out for the BC Lions game last week. So there's been this apathy toward O'Day, the general manager, that they've been disappointed with what's gone on with him. I know that people were livid at the way the Craig Dickinson era ended, and I can't blame them. I mean, Craig Dickinson, horrible job, and of course, the team just fell apart at the end of his run, and I think the GM got a lot of blame. So they've been slow to warm to this team. Even though they've had a really good season, they're West Division champs. They get to the Grey Cup, winning the West Final. It's almost like it's taken this team a while or this fan base a while to wipe off the disappointment, the anger, the hate, the disdain for how they felt about the Riders just a year or two ago, and really embrace this year's 2025 Saskatchewan team. So I think that's also, something to watch for here, is that will that fan base flock as much as we think? And I'll say this, and I was impressed with the Alouette fan turnout in Hamilton last week at that game. There was a lot of Quebec flags in the crowd, wearing their Alouette jerseys. Once that game was over and they were doing the celebration, I mean, it was basically all Alouette fans left in the stadium, pretty much. So like I said, they had a decent turnout in Hamilton. They'll show up for this game. And like I said, Saskatchewan will still have more fans. But like I said, as far as this game goes, people look at Saskatchewan and say, hey, the West is better than the East. That's a part of it, too. How do we get this line? Bobby's asking.
That's a big part of it for me. And
West bias.
Yeah.
West bias. People just assume West is better than the East. West has been better than the East in this league forever and ever and a day. But that hasn't always been the case in the Grey Cup in recent years. Look no further than last year, where Toronto, with Nick Arbuckle at quarterback, nobody gave them a chance except maybe us, because I think we all kind of liked Toronto and felt they were live in that game. And they sure enough beat Winnipeg outright as a damn near double-digit underdog. The East has shown up in these Grey Cups in recent years. I know Winnipeg's the one exception with their Grey Cup wins, but you look at outside of that, we've seen some Toronto Grey Cup wins. Ottawa won a Grey Cup with Henry Burris, several years ago. Like, there have been some East teams showing up. And I think the fact that people just assume, well, West in recent years has dominated the East, they overlook the fact that this is not also ran, Eastern team, Montreal. This is a really good football team that's as healthy as they've been all season long, especially if this offensive line, you guys, has their left guard and left tackle. Let's not forget, this team was decimated on defense with injuries. There was a time Sutton was banged up, Beverett was banged up, Dequan missed some time in that secondary, and we know how important he is. That D-line has had some shuffling. They've had O-line injuries. They had their receiving core missing multiple key. There was times that Phil Pottenmack missed games, both of them in the same game. Now in this game, there's a slight concern about Mac, but I think Mac's going to be fine. I think he's going to play. I'd be stunned if he doesn't go. I think it's a very minor injury he's dealing with. This is as healthy as Montreal's been all year, especially if that offensive line is intact, and it's looking more and more like it will be.
I just look at this Montreal team, and again, I'm trying to find reasons just the same way Bobby is for why this number is blasted the way it is, because I'm not going to lie to you guys. Like, going into this week, I thought that Montreal has become everyone's darling. Like, it seemed to me like Montreal had become everyone's favorite team. And then the number just gets bigger and bigger and bigger on Saskatchewan. And maybe to your point, Ian, it's the CFL. It's not the NFL. People overreact to injury stuff. And, you mentioned the home field stuff. But look, I still sit back and I'm thinking about being on my couch watching Winnipeg versus Montreal, holding a 6.5-point ticket on the dog in that one, and thinking about if it wasn't for the first 4 minutes of that ball game where Winnipeg's defense were looking like statues, Winnipeg's right in that game. Maybe they even win that game. When I look
the counter argument, though, Andrew, to that is, if not for a fall asleep in the first 5-6 minutes of the third quarter by Montreal, it could have been a complete and utter blowout.
Yeah, it could have been like a 20 or 30-point blow. That's for sure. So it is interesting to look at with this one. But I just think that, like, you're a Hamilton fan, so I don't want to put you on the spot here. But when you look at the matchups that Saskatchewan had in their divisional finals versus the matchup that maybe Montreal had, and again, Hamilton was right there. It was a good matchup. And we've talked about it. Winnipeg's been successful in the Grey Cup, but they've also gotten there and then kind of shit the bed, for lack of better words, against teams like Montreal or Toronto. But part of me definitely does think that Saskatchewan, they've had Winnipeg in their way for so many years. They get through BC now. This maybe is finally their year. But before we get you out of here, I don't want to keep you too long, Ian. If you want to give a pick, side or total, would love for you to. Props if you love any. But focusing on the positives. What are the pros for both teams? What do you think has to happen for both teams to have success?
I think the key right now for Saskatchewan is the offensive line. And Bobby hinted at it. It's had so many moving parts, musical chairs at times this year for Corey Mace dealing with that offensive line. And when you're talking about, and Trevor Harris, who I know well, and by the way, this is one of these deals where, with these two teams being in the Grey Cup, this was my Grey Cup pick before the season, Montreal and Saskatchewan. But have knowing Trevor and Davis personally, having them on my Football Frenzy show at the same time multiple times, this is like trying to pick which kid you love the most here between these two guys here, Davis and Trevor, going head to head here in the Grey Cup. So it's not the easiest pick for me to make here as far as this Grey Cup selection is concerned. But what I'm doing, Andrew, is I'm just going to wait this thing out and get whatever best number I can get with Montreal. That's what I'm going to end up landing on, whether it's +4, whether it's +4.5. At the end of the day, I think Davis Alexander, it's sounding like he's going to be healthier and that hamstring is going to be better than people think. And let's say worst case scenario strikes. Bang, he gets hit in the worst spot possible. Out, not returning. And you're thinking with a Montreal ticket in pocket, holy shit, we're in trouble here with the Montreal Alouettes now. And McLeod Bethel Thompson is a scary proposition to trust, as we know. But I want to rewind back to maybe the best game I've seen McLeod Bethel Thompson play in years, which guess where it happened and who it happened against? Oh, yeah, the Saskatchewan Roughriders earlier this year. I've never seen the guy throw the ball and sling the football like he did in that game. He torched Saskatchewan's defense in that game. So let's say worst case scenario, Davis Alexander's injured first half, MBT has to come in, finish the game. He actually torched Saskatchewan in the regular season meeting in Mosaic as well on the road. I remember being on Montreal with all the points just because I like the spot for them going into that game. But he played well. And it's one of these deals where how many times have we seen it, in playoff games, Grey Cup games, regular season games? You just get the backup in and all of a sudden there's a little momentum there. You would think, whoa, in trouble. And how many times have we seen the backup rally the troops and play well? Again, that's a big if because Saskatchewan's defense is no joke. They can get after it up front. Secondary with all, is as good as it gets. They stop the run. But, MBT can be capable for one game, 2.5, 3 quarters, whatever, if he has to come in for an injured Davis Alexander. I'm hoping we don't see that it come to that. But I'm just saying there is a scenario where Montreal is not completely dead meat, in my opinion, if an injury were to strike to Davis Alexander. But this is two really good football teams. It would be a great story if Trevor wins one because he's been in this league forever. He's going to be 40 years old very soon. And I know personally from talking to him that he doesn't have much time left. He's looking at maybe a year or two, maybe to play in the CFL. So how many more cracks and opportunities at a Grey Cup? His first Grey Cup as a starting quarterback. He did win one before, but it was as a backup. But as a starter, he has not won one yet. How many more chances are you going to get? So there's going to be significant motivation and incentive on his side to get the job done here. But at the end of the day, Montreal's a very well-coached team. They've been in these Grey Cup games significant amount of times, gotten the job done just 2 years ago with this same coaching staff. Jason Moss, Noel Thorpe, the great defensive coordinator, Anthony Calvillo, the offensive coordinator. They got the job done. They know how to play well in these big games. You're getting 4.5 points. Oh, yeah, and you're getting the 4.5 points with a quarterback starting this game who has not lost, as a CFL starting quarterback. So, yeah, for me, Montreal at the best number I can find.
Ian, I'll never forget Dave Koken, and God bless Dave. Rest in peace. We miss him every day, and it's such an amazing guy and handicapper. Yes. He had Rams and Bengals, and this is at Wager Talk. He released this as a play, and this is like you got to have balls of steel. There's no other way I can say this. He gave out Rams money line and Bengals +3.5 in the same game. Super Bowl at Wager Talk for his clients. Like, you got to absolutely love that. Like, the way that he was able to execute that. And this game is kind of interesting because, like, I could see
that sounds like a Bobby and Ian CFL type of middle right there, which we've had a few times this year. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, in the NFL, we don't usually get those huge middles like we do in the CFL, but very curious to see if this number gets any bigger. We could get some funny opportunities where one team wins and the other team covers the point spread, because Montreal very well
see this getting higher than 4.5. 4.5 at the absolute most. There's no way I could see this going higher than that. There's got to be some sort of buyback and some sort of pushback from people interested in Montreal if it gets to that point.
I will say one last thing, Ian. I was saying at the start of the week that I thought that over correlated with Montreal, under correlated with Saskatchewan. But I do think with the injuries and, I think Montreal is not going to be able to just light every secondary up that they play and just have these 40-yard plays downfield all the time. But I'm starting to kind of inch closer to the under a little bit on both teams. I could definitely make a case the under could work for both teams we've seen some higher scoring games in both Super Bowl and Grey Cup over the last couple of years in certain points, but 49.5, if you can get there, I kind of do lean towards the under here in this one.
Yeah, I prefer a live over. If I'm going to bet the over, I'm going to prefer it live, because we saw even last year it started slow and then it was just an explosion second half with the Bombers Argos Grey Cup last year. We've seen that at times in the recent Grey Cups where it does start slow first quarter, first half, then the offenses start to find their footing. Not to mention, this is a big stage, the biggest stage in the Canadian Football League. A little bit of nerves early on, maybe just trying to maybe not try to just be so aggressive early in the game, just try to, step your way gradually into a game of this magnitude. And I think that can sometimes lead to lower scoring starts. So that's a big part of it. So a live over is kind of what I'm targeting. There is one prop I wanted to mention too, because we'll dabble in some player props. Look, there's so many receivers, right? From Montreal: Philpott, Mac, Speaker, Rambo. The one I'm going to be interested in the most, though, and obviously Philpott's a big game or big play receiver, and Matt can be as well. The one I'm really going to focus on, though, is a guy that's had really good rapport with really multiple quarterbacks, but especially Davis, is Tyler Snead, a good possession receiver, guy that can catch the ball in the short to intermediate routes, and really be a check down option as well for Davis, because I do think Saskatchewan will bring the heat with their defensive front, which has really gotten going as the season's progressed. That I think Tyler Snead is going to be someone that's going to be making an impact and someone that will be targeted a lot, catch a lot of balls, and we know how great he is in the open field. He's shifty. He can make defenders miss. So I think Tyler Snead, whether it's over receptions and over receiving yards, he's the Montreal receiver that I'm targeting most for player props in this game on Sunday.
Yeah, and the yards after catch is really good with him, too. If he gets the ball, he can make something happen. Ian, you're one of the hardest working guys in the game, man. You do multiple sports. You're an encyclopedia. And look, I love doing hockey shows with you, and hopefully we can do more hockey shows together, of course, down the road. But love talking CFL, and we'll never forget doing the CFL 3-down breakdown together with our SBR days. That was so much fun.
Ages ago, yeah.
Yeah, I was a bit younger, and so were you. That makes us feel a little bit older. But thanks for coming on the show, man. Enjoy the Grey Cup.
No doubt. Andrew, Bobby, great job on the show. It's sad that the CFL season's ending, but hopefully we ended with a bang and a great Grey Cup on Sunday. Congrats on the great show you did this year, and good luck and enjoy the Grey Cup, and the same to everyone watching and listening.
Thanks, Ian. Take care.
Thank you.
Hey, guys.
All right, guys, that's Ian Cameron. If you don't know him, Bobby, people probably should know Ian if they're watching our show, but very good
for sure.
Not just in CFL, but multiple other sports as well. So good to hear multiple opinions. And you talked about it. We got 4 time zones on this show today. And we got Ben. He's waiting. He's in the bullpen. He's ready to come in. Ben Kramer, how are you, man?
Hey, guys. Busy day. Football's in full swing, right? We're still in the middle of the 7 weeks of football where I've got games every day between college and CFL. So, yeah, no, this is the toughest part of the year, but it's also the most profitable time of year. So you put in your time, you get your cash, and then you go on vacation in January, right?
I love the way that sounds. What do you think about this number? It's obviously moved. We saw 1.5. Now some spots showing 4.5. Bobby was asking Ian for, his main reasons for what he even thinks the movement is and why we've seen that. What have you seen from this matchup overall, and what do you think about the number?
I think it's Alexander's hamstring, right? If you watch the BC Saskatchewan game, the vast majority of their big plays came on times where it looked like Rourke was dead in the pocket, and frankly, probably any other quarterback would have been blown dead, but they let him keep playing. He managed to squeeze out, and he'd throw a 40-yard bomb because that's what the Roughriders secondary tends to give up when the defensive line doesn't get to the quarterback. Alexander is not going to be able to escape that same way that Rourke did. And I think probably a lot of bettors are pretty concerned as to whether he's going to be able to extend plays enough that the secondary can be left open. Because certainly Saskatchewan has had that tendency of giving up big plays, but it's usually come just when the defensive line doesn't get pressure. So, yeah, I think probably going into the week, I thought it was probably going to wind up somewhere around Montreal plus 2.5 would be an interesting number to me. It keeps getting a little bit bigger. I'm not betting either side because I've had Roughriders season tickets for 30 years. I'm not putting my heart on the line with that one. I refuse to. But if I was looking at it from that kind of perspective, yeah, I think probably Montreal plus 2.5 is probably a fair number. And now that we're getting a little bit bigger than that, it's probably just growing concern whether Alexander is even going to be able to be mobile at all on game day.
Bobby, you don't have your BC Lions in here, so you're unbiased with this Riders team. But anything that you think, Bobby, that we could ask Ben about props, because you and I don't really bet props too much, but it is the Grey Cup. Do you have any player projections or any players, Bobby, you think that maybe we should ask him about?
Well, I guess I'm kind of curious about the backup running back situation, because we already had Ian go off on the CFL media a few minutes ago, but this is one of their favorite things. It's like you saw it in Regina when Kadeem Carey was signed. Oh, well, there's going to be a two-headed monster, and he got maybe 6 plays in, right? So is the Alouettes, I guess this line's on FanDuel. It's like 20 yards or something for Tease here. Is that something that you'd be interested in going under? I know it's a low number to begin with, but I just find maybe it's just in my head that I think these backup running backs, you saw it in BC last week. It was Butler basically the whole way, right? So I'm just wondering, maybe it's a sort of media narrative, these backup running backs that they say are a factor that never turn out to be.
Montreal is one of those few teams that legitimately used 2+ running backs every game this season until they wound up with both Tice and Erlington out late season. And that gave Scott kind of the full reign of the backfield. But prior to that, they were a 2- and 3-headed monster all season too. So I absolutely think they're going to get work. It's just a matter of what does this backfield blend look like. So looking back through the year, they had 4 games this season where they had Tice and Scott as the running back duo. And in those, we had Tice was ahead in 3 out of 4 games as far as carries go. If you're looking at what's happened lately, it's certainly been Scott's backfield, right? So in my projections this week, I have them broken down about 47% of the rush attempts to Scott and 26 to Tice. And so looking at projections, they come out pretty close to what most books have them posted. I think they probably did the same homework that I did in putting things together. There's not a lot of guesswork. We have a little bit of a sample size here. I think probably the more interesting thing is going to be on the passing side of the ball. Just figuring out how much these teams are interested in actually airing it out in the Grey Cup game. So I move both teams about 5% rush heavier than what their normal baselines would be, and we're still seeing a lot of passing and receiving overs as far as compared to the lines that we're getting on whether it's Bodog or Coolbet or FanDuel that I've seen so far today. So I've got 3 for you that I think are probably pretty good prop bets going into this week. I think AJ Ouellette over 11.5 receiving yards at -115 that opened on Bodog this morning. He's been about a 9% target share throughout the season, and that projects for about 2.3 receptions and 20 yards this week. He went 2 for 13 a week ago. I think probably getting over at 11.5 is a fair bet this week going into it, especially if they open up conservative like they did last week in both of the 2 division finals. These coaches, they don't want to lose it early on, and so they give themselves to try and have the opportunity of the short dump-off passes, see what they can get going. And I think probably early on you could have that over 11.5 by halftime pretty easily if it goes his way. The other one that I like is Kean Schaefer-Baker over 38.5 receiving yards at 115. He was about an 18% target share over the last couple of seasons and somewhat limited work due to injuries. But last week he came back and he had about 26% with Keyshawn Johnson out of the lineup. So even if Keyshawn comes back this week, I think Schaefer-Baker, even at just an 18% target share kind of projection, projects for 4 receptions for 53 yards. So the over 38.5 there looks pretty sweet as far as what we're getting for openers. And if Keyshawn Johnson does stay out of the game and Robustelli is out of this game, as he missed practice and concussion protocol, then all of a sudden over 38.5 becomes kind of a smash play and not even just a consideration of what kind of a good edge it is. The last one I like, finally, I'll give you an under for those who don't like the over bets. Travis Tice under 17.5 receiving yards at -115. I think 3 of his 4 receptions last week came just kind of getting spam checkdowns on their last drive, and part of that didn't have a lot. He projects for 1.3 receptions and 12.6 receiving yards. Unlike other seasons, Montreal really hasn't thrown to the running backs very much this season. I think Fletcher had about an 18% target share last year. This year, they've been about 8% target share total between all 3 running backs combined. So unless it becomes a situation where Saskatchewan is sitting back in prevent and just trying not to lose the game late, and Montreal takes the checkdowns consistently, I don't think there's a lot of roads to Tice going over 18 yards.
Great stuff. Love the player props. And some people will say it's hard to get down, but there's multiple spots that have CFL props now. There's fantasy apps that have CFL props now, and you do great work with all your projections. Feel free to tell us about what you do and where people can find all your work.
Yeah, well, these days it's unabated. I've been there for 3 years now at unabated.com doing player projections for college football and for CFL. But I've been in this game for about 10 years now, prior to that with a couple other companies and even on CFL.ca for 3 or 4 seasons. So, yeah, it's been a lot. It's fun. I enjoy math. My autistic ADHD brain likes looking at numbers and spreadsheets all day. So like it's my happy place sitting in this recliner with 4 monitors around me, just looking at spreadsheets every day. So I'm happy to be able to share what I can with the rest of the world. And yeah, it's good stuff.
Hey, if your spreadsheets can lead you to winners, we'll take those all day long. We'll be happy to have those. I like that Schaefer Baker one. I got to say, the one that I'm kind of surprised with, and maybe it's because I've been just all over his rushing prop. I did not see you coming on here with an AJ Ouellette receiving prop. I did not see that coming at all.
Well, it's because it hasn't been posted at all this season. It's a funny thing. Like you can get spoiled pretty easily looking at NFL and college football player props. You look at our screens on Unabated and you see 40 props available for each team. And there's just this vast array of things to choose from receptions to rush attempts to pass completions and all this kind of stuff. CFL, man, you get kind of 8 or 10 options on any given game, and it's usually receiving yards, rushing yards, and passing touchdowns. So usually books get a little bit more adventurous when it comes to Grey Cup time because they're going to see a few more eyes. And I expect we'll probably see reception props pop up sometime later before kickoff on Saturday too. So yeah, there will be a lot of options. But yeah, AJ Ouellette over 11.5 receiving yards. He's had a pretty consistent role. It's just not a really big role. So there's certainly a chance that he gets his 3 targets, he catches one of them, and you're just hoping that it goes for something. But yeah, he's pretty consistently 3.5 targets a game and should get his opportunities this week.
So Sunday night, if you're finishing up watching that game and your team comes out on top, what do you think they did to make that happen, to be victorious? What are the keys for them?
I think the defensive line is going to get after Alexander, and he's not going to be able to escape. That the hamstring is going to keep him from being mobile and escaping the pocket like Rourke did so many times last week. And that's really what put Saskatchewan on their heels. If not for that, they really had kind of control of that defensive game apart from a couple of big plays that broke the secondary. So I think the defensive line has a big game. They put Alexander down a number of times. His hamstring flares up. They don't have the mobility. Nobody's been able to run consistently against Saskatchewan this season. So I think that's probably the defensive keys to them making it happen. On the offensive side of the ball, they're just going to have to squeeze things out and be able to score 20, 25 points, and that probably gets them there, is my opinion. They haven't been great on offense, but they've been enough. Harris probably is enough. It's a great Montreal defense. And Saskatchewan doesn't have all of their weapons ready to go this week. But I think, again, they're probably going to dress the biggest, strongest, best blocking receivers that they have. They're going to grind it out as much as they can on the ground. They're going to run short check down and crossers. And then once a quarter, they're going to throw a deep ball to try and test the secondary, kind of like they did against BC. It's going to be the same formula. It's going to be largely the same roster. And probably we're going to expect a really low scoring first half where both teams just don't want to lose early on and they let their more cowardly tendencies from the coaching staff reign supreme. And then in the second half, they'll think, man, at some point we've got to go try and win this game. And they open up a bit more. We'll see a little bit more offense and probably you get a score in that 25-20 final area where hopefully Saskatchewan's on the top of it. But if the defensive line doesn't manage to get there and Alexander manages to keep plays alive, then yeah, I think absolutely there's going to be opportunities for some big plays and break this secondary that has certainly been prone to giving up the big play throughout the season.
Bobby?
I got to go Saskatchewan radio on you here. Who's going to be the bigger factor in this game? The field goal kicker or the guy who's deciding if he's going out to kick the field goals?
Yeah, it's unreal, right? Like, it's unbelievable that we have a professional football team in this day and age with a guy who probably couldn't kick for a peewee team. But this is where we're at, right? They've decided all season that this is their guy. And just like has kind of bit teams like Winnipeg over the last couple of years, the coaches are big on loyalty, right? They're next man up. We trust our guys, team. And it goes great when everybody's playing well. But when you're loyal to guys who are struggling, man, like that can come back and get you. So I hope they don't kick a field goal this week. I hope that they don't have to attempt it, because certainly pressure kicks have not been the strength of this Rough Riders football team. Hopefully they get up early, they score their touchdowns, they don't have to worry about the kicking game. And I just don't have to lose sleep over it, because that certainly be the biggest fear of mine, that we get into a field goal contest with Montreal, and that's not one that I think that they win.
I'm biased because I watched actually a lot of Lawler's games growing up, whether it was high school or college. He's from close to my area. I can't deny that what we've seen from everybody who kicked a field goal for this team, but especially what his numbers have been like. The only thing I'll say to defend him is that it's kind of sad that before, when they were kicking those field goals, when they didn't have an offense, he was great. And then now this is when they've needed him the most this year, is when he hasn't really been able to show up. Because there have been so many games where like the offense wasn't doing anything. They would cross, into the opponent territory and kick a long field goal, and he was there. And now this is the season they finally had an offense and they're putting points on the board, and he was struggling. So,
Lewis Ward syndrome, right?
Yeah.
It's the same kind of story, that all of a sudden Ottawa manages to learn how to move the ball, and now their kicker can't kick.
Yeah.
It would be truly amazing if some team could get a kicker that could kick and an offense that could move the ball, and then watch the coaches struggle to try and make a decision as to what they should actually do. But hopefully it's not going to be the one. Hopefully he get the Grey Cup ring. Hopefully this is a forgotten season that he never has to think about again, and everybody just goes happily ever after, and he keeps his paycheck, and everyone gets a Grey Cup ring, and we go happily ever after. But it could certainly be a nightmare too.
Well, Bobby's talked a lot on this show. So I'm the more we talk and the more I've looked at this game, the more I'm leaning towards the under. And I saw heard your 25-20, that ends up working out. That favors me a little bit. But we joke around about in the CFL, do field goals even help unders? Where you get the ball back, the situations that coaches send guys out there. Like, what do you think? Do field goals even help? If I think sometimes what would I'd almost prefer is them to go for it and then not get it, of course, and be down there stuck on their own line. But a field goal is almost guaranteeing the next team to get a field goal as well on their next drive.
Yeah, I don't believe in field goals. Kickers are people too, but I wish their jobs were eliminated. Right? It's not fun. It's not interesting. And overall, it's really bad. Like, I lost my mind when the Rough Riders kicked their short field goal down at the end of the fourth quarter near this end of the Western final. Like, it was the wrong decision. They managed to make it work, but it was absolutely the wrong decision. But coaches are scared to get hammered in the media for passing up sure points, right? As if anything from a Saskatchewan kicker has been sure points all season. But hopefully it's not a big concern. But I would certainly hope that we have a few more opportunities for these offensives to put it in the end zone and make it an interesting game instead of a field goal contest.
Ben, have you figured out any rhyme or reason to Mace's decision making? Like,
no,
sure, he made the absolute wrong decision to go for that field goal in the fourth quarter, but he went for it like earlier in the game. They went on the 4-yard line, and
he's a chaos agent
on third down, right?
So, like, it's unbelievable. My biggest concern when they hired him, and I said it right off the top, and my concern has been straight to this point: he's too conservative. He gets tight when they should be going for it, and he holds up. He pulls his punches, and he hopes that his defense will be able to win it for them, because he's a defensive coach, and so he trusts that side of the ball instead of trusting the analytics, doing the right thing, going to win games instead of trying to not lose them. And overall, coaches that try and win games tend to win more games. It's crazy, but it's true. So, I hope it's not the Achilles heel that comes back to bite them and keeps them from winning a championship, obviously. But certainly, I think overall, that's going to be his downfall someday, is just that he's unwilling to push to go win and instead hopes to not lose.
I don't know. I still think Buck Pierce gets my award for this year, Bobby. I know Mace pissed you off, but the amount of times that I saw Buck Pierce roll out the field goal team when they were third and 3 on the 3-yard line, or 3rd and 4. I mean, it's like, dude, just trust your offense. Like, if you hit it 50% of the time, you're gonna get more points than you would have anyway without the field goal. So Kelly in Vegas, who of course most people will know watching this, and if you don't, well, you're watching Wager Talk Network, you got to know Kelly. She wears a hoodie, Ben, that says kicking is for losers, and I love that. Kelly is the best, and she hates kickers as well because they're always messing with her point spread and stuff like that. But any closing thoughts before we get you out of here?
When Trevor Harris was in Ottawa, they kicked 32 field goals from inside the 25-yard line in his last season there. I'm hoping that he gets a better fate in Saskatchewan on Sunday, and that they give him a chance to go and win instead of coming up short and just hoping they don't lose.
Look, we love the CFL. We love betting on the CFL, and we did this podcast every single week throughout the season. We chatted with you. We chatted with Ian. We wanted to make sure we had both you guys on the show. So thanks for your time. Thanks for being here, and good luck to your team. Enjoy the game.
Yeah, great chatting with you guys. Have a good time.
Well, Bobby, 2 different opinions. I love the fact that he said, hey, maybe plus 2.5, but he's a Riders guy, so gave us some quality player props, and I love that. Some great player projections as well. You guys can check out Ben's work, Ben Kramer. Check him out on X. AJ Ouellette receiving. Wow, like that's up my alley with the NFL player props. Kind of a little bit of a different type of prop there. I like the Schaefer Baker one that he gave out there, and I love the way he said, and for all of you guys that only, bet unders and don't like overs, here's an under for you as well. So cool perspective from 2 different guests.
Yeah, and weird that the crowd pleaser is giving out an under, which is completely contrary to popular belief. So I think Corey Mace is going to be a big problem here, and Ben mentioned that. You mentioned Buck Pierce. I think it's an epidemic, especially in the West. They got rid of Rick Campbell, which I thought it was because he was making the exact same decisions that Buck Pierce is making, right? So it's just crazy. And if you want to trust your defense to hold the other team on their, when they're pinned on their 4-yard line with that big scary field goal post in front of the quarterback's vision, right? So the trust your defense thing doesn't make any sense to me. They trusted their defense and they got the ball back on their own 30 or something. If they went for it and failed, trusted their defense, they'd be in field goal range already. So nothing makes sense. The only thing with Corey Mace is at least he's inconsistent and he sometimes makes the right decision. Whereas most of these other coaches, you know exactly what they're going to do. They're going to cower out. They're going to take the points, spot the team 30 yards. Glenn Suter's going to say, oh, got to take the points. And the other team's a first down from basically canceling it out. So, definitely. I wouldn't shit on Brett Lauder as much as he would. He sees it firsthand, I guess. But kickers can still be used for kickoffs, and I think there was something else they could be used for too. But I'm all for eliminating field goals from the game, and I think the new rule changes are going to do that, and the punter is going to be the star. And I'm all for more punting. I appreciate field position. Unlike everybody else, people are going to be losing their minds in 2 years when there's not going to be 60 more touchdowns. There's going to probably be 200 more punts.
Especially in the Canadian game. Like it's chess. You're playing a chess match. It's all about the punters are key. I mean, you need to have field position, but sometimes the kick is just not worth doing.
You said that Hamilton game, the best play of the first half was a punt.
Yeah, it really was. It really was. It was boring to watch. It was, and like I was watching with a buddy, and it kind of sucks because a lot of my friends, they're Canadian and they'll still barely give the NFL or CFL a shot, and they're watching and I kept on telling him about you because he's like, Andrew, I'm trying to watch this. I just don't understand. I don't understand why he's not going for it. Why is the coach not like my buddy I was watching? Maybe he's on the extreme side, But my buddy I was watching the game with, he thought in like literally 25 minutes he watched the game with me, the coach could have gone for it like 3 or 4 times on third down. Both coaches. I can't remember which. It was Montreal and Hamilton. Like, he just couldn't get over the fact that, if you're a decent ways into the opponent's end and you're settling for a field goal, he doesn't really. And I think that has to do with the fact that he took the live over in the game, but also the fact that, what's 3 points going to do for your success, especially Hamilton, though, I would say. It's like Montreal were the favorites. Everybody liked them. I think that you need to realize the value of a touchdown. So, and then the funny thing is the other side of it, though, Bobby, is some people are getting frustrated in the NFL because, a 50-yarder is like a walk in the park for a lot of kickers now. So it's kind of funny. Like I swear to God, it seems like more people are missing like 30-yarders because they're just, I don't know, lacking focus than they are these 50-yarders. Like look at Cam Little. He hit like a 65-yarder. If you have a kicker on your team that can do that, it absolutely changes the game for you.
Yeah, it's not the days of Sebastian Janikowski being the greatest Raider, kicking his 58-yard field goals. Like everybody's doing it now, right? So you haven't seen that in the CFL with Shaun White gets talked about a lot for like basically not having the same range as everybody else. But the only thing Shaun White did wrong over the weekend was hit the like basically doink it, right? If he missed that field goal, I think the Lions would be a lot better off. I think that gets run out, and the Riders are probably pinned in their close to their goal line. So yeah, it's weird seeing field goals just being too easy in the NFL, and everybody's worried they're going to be eliminated in the CFL.
It's just more about the decision making that you and I don't like. So we'll see where this number moves. We'll see if it goes back at all. I saw your tweet and you were saying, hey, look, 3.5. I don't know if it's going to go any further. 4, then a 4.5. And Ian said he's going to just try and get the best number he possibly can.
Where's this 4.5? I gotta.
Oh yeah, there's some 4.5s out there. Trust me, there's some 4.5s out there. Shout out to oddslogic.com. Good plug there, Bobby. Good
There you go.
Good segue for me. Good odd screen there for us. So we'll see what ends up happening. I'll be looking towards a total, but I'll be playing some player props as well. And I already like the Schaefer Baker one. And because of Ben, I'll probably most certainly be on that at this point. So not a probably, it will be a 100% will be on that one. So look forward to it. We'll see where this number continues to move. It's a big storyline, as Ian mentioned, and I love how he cracks me up. He's like, feel like I had to pick which kid I love the most. That's like the most Ian line, but it's true. Like he's buddies with both of them. But this kind of it's a young team versus an older team a little bit here, and Harris has a couple years left. Davis Alexander has a whole career ahead of him. He hasn't lost a game yet as a CFL starter. So kind of some different storylines to look at. You're going to be at the game, and I'm hoping to join you next year at the Grey Cup. And let's face it, it would have been a cool excuse to go to Winnipeg, but a trip to hang out, have some beers, and watch a game with you in Calgary sounds a bit more fun than a trip to Winnipeg. But tell us about any plans you have while you're there.
First thing I'm doing is hitting happy hour at my grandma's senior home. I think it's at 2 or 3 o'clock. Then head downtown to pick up my passes and then meet some fans. One guy who's gone to Evan, who's gone to 40 Grey Cups or something like that in a row. He's a guy I met at the airport when I was setting my record. He actually drove me to the Hamilton game to make sure he knew how important it was to get me to Hamilton from my stupid Toronto airport hotel, which I didn't realize was so far away. So hoping to meet up with Ben when I'm there. Lots of other CFL, not necessarily media, but people that cover the league better than the media. Looking forward to that. And what do we got? I think tonight is the awards night where I was thinking about putting something out. Like I'll drink a beer for every vote that Bo Levi gets in this MOP. Just because it's going to be so ridiculous. I think he's going to at least get half a dozen votes for an MOP that you can't justify it. Even the Hamilton guys went silent the last 5-6 weeks of the season. So a lot of people have Rourke at a better number than I do. Most of mine are at 10s. Obviously, I hedged with some VA and Diedrich Mills and even Nick Arbuckle when he had a legit shot at being getting the Eastern nominee. So but it looks like it's in the bag for Nathan Rourke tonight. So I'll be there tomorrow to basically celebrate. Not as hard as I did when Oliveira won, but still a nice pickup there.
Yeah, not the biggest. I mean, Rourke was a guy you and I both talked about at the start of the season. He's not really someone that you were picking up halfway through the year. But hey, there was discussion at some points, and I think when I say some points, they were at the start of the season, and it wasn't necessarily by us, but people were saying, hey, look how well VA's looking. Look how well the Stamps are playing. Did they make the right choice? Did they make the right choice? And of course, Rourke has the unbelievable. He's by far the standout this year in the CFL. So we've had a ton of fun doing this show this year. I think maybe next year, Bobby would try and get more guests on throughout the show. It's our show to do what we want. Maybe throughout the season, we'll get different players on or different media people or your favorite TSN panelists and try and get their thoughts. Actually, funny story. I was out for a friend's birthday and Arash was at the bar because he was here in Halifax covering the it was the Loney Bowl, like the university championship game. And so I was showing my ID to the bouncer, and I was like, "Why am I even showing an ID for a bouncer for like it was niche. I don't know if you've been there, but and he goes, I was like, "Is the Habs game on?" And my buddy was like, no, it's my birthday. Is the Leafs game on?" And then he goes, "No, it's the CFL game. We're showing for the first little while. There's a guy from Sportsnet on, Arash. He's here. He wants to see it." I was like, "There's fucking 10 TVs here. Let's get the Habs game on." And even me that likes the CFL, I was like, "Let's get the Habs game on. There's a bunch of TVs." I walk in the bar. Every single TV in the whole bar had the CFL game on.
There you go. That's good. Nice change of scenery. I remember a few years ago it was sort of like a trend on X that you'd find the weirdest place to get them to put the CFL game on. So now it's nice to see that there's a place in Halifax that is CFL exclusive.
You just got to tell people you work for Sportsnet. Arash had some pull. That's what I respected. He had some pull there. But there were some good games last week. We look forward to the Grey Cup. Hope you have a blast, Bobby. Have a good time. Hope you meet some people, and hopefully we can cash some tickets. So we appreciate everybody that watched us all year long. We'll be back next year on the Wager Talk TV channel and on both of our exes accounts as well. And not our exes, like our ex-girlfriends, but our ex channel, our ex Twitters. But we hope you guys enjoyed the game. Thanks so much for watching and supporting us. Hit the like button on this chat and this video. If you ever have thought about or been close to hitting the like button, this is probably the one that would help us out the most. Show Wager Talk that we should bring this show back. Give us a comment who you're picking, Saskatchewan or Montreal. And we hope you guys enjoy the game. We'll see you guys next year, right here on the CFL Betting Blueprint.